Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Gabriel Alaka and I am a licensed architect in the state of California. I am based in the Los Angeles area, and today I'm going to be giving you my own personal review of the Galois M2 by Realsee, and I'm going to be showing you the vast array of things that I've been able to achieve with this camera. At the end of this video, if there's something I didn't cover, please drop a comment below. Or if you want to make a suggestion for me to make another kind of video, please let me know, and I'll see you to record another kind of video. But I am planning on adding more videos on this YouTube channel regarding scanning, point clouds, and things of that nature. But any recommendations are welcome. You can send me an email to gabriel@galakaarchitects.com, or you can check out my website, as you can just see down there, at galakaarchitects.com. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to be showing you a lot of images that came directly from the Realsee website, which you can go to home.realsee.ai. And I'm going to get started with my review. So first and foremost, I'm going to give you some just general specs about the equipment. So one thing you need to understand is that taking scans of spaces is a little bit labor intensive. It's not too complicated, but it does take some time to scan an entire space. Every single time you take a scan, the camera will rotate 360 degrees and it has a field of view of 135 degrees. What that means is that every time you take a scan, you will not be able to see what's above you and what's below you. If you want to see those two areas, you essentially have to move the camera to the next spot, and that second shot is going to capture what you missed in the first spot. And you kind of repeat this process over and over again until you scan the entire project, and all of that will be very clearly visible to you within the Realsee console and their software itself. Here's some more specs taken directly from the website. So every time you take a scan of a space, it has a 25-meter scanning radius. That's more for the LiDAR itself, and I'm going to go into more detail about that later. At the end of the day, Realsee provides a vast array of deliverables, such as 3D models, raw photos, 16K panels, point clouds, which is the main reason I use this camera, is because of the point cloud. And also you get videos for marketing purposes, like for realtors and things of that nature. The camera has an 8-hour battery life. That is true. I've been able to do 2 scans in one day back to back on a single charge. And when that was all said and done, I had about maybe like 25% battery. And each one of those 2 scans took me about maybe 3 to 4 hours each. So 8-hour battery life, I would contest that's actually true. It's a lightweight camera. It weighs 2.66 kg. To be honest with you, you're not going to be moving this camera around. It's not heavy. It's going to be on a tripod. So for the most part, it kind of works on its own weight. It just kind of stands on a tripod, and all you have to do is press a button, and then it kind of spins around. So you're not going to be lugging this thing around, but it is portable. It's very lightweight. It has a 134 megapixel camera. That's because it does capture panoramic shots in 16K. Now, on your screen, it might not make much sense about why they have 16K. However, when you view a 3D tour, you do have the option to pop on VR goggles. In that case, you're kind of immersed into the space, and that is where, in my opinion, the 16K resolution image comes into handy, because you're kind of like, you're really in there and everything looks nice and crisp, and it almost looks like, or feels like, that you're in the space itself. But if you're looking at that 16K like on a phone or on a screen, it's okay. I mean, it's super high res, like on your phone. But the 16K really comes into effect once you put on the VR goggles and you can walk around the space, and that is when the full resolution kind of comes in hand. It does have leading algorithm capabilities. What this means is that every time you take a picture or a scan, Realsee does 2 things. The first thing it does is that it stitches each panoramic shot to the next one, and it also stitches each scan point to the next one for the LiDAR. So it does the stitching for the photos, and it does the stitching for the point cloud itself automatically without you having to do a single thing. For as long as the for as long as the scan looks correct on the screen while you're scanning, you know for a fact it's going to look correct after it's done processing at the very end. Okay. Um, Whether you like it or not, every single time you're taking a scan, there is a LiDAR sensor here at the corner of the camera that is essentially placing little dots on any solid surface in full color around you. It has a 25-meter radius that it actually captures those dots around you. And Realsee states that it has the accuracy is within 0.20, within plus or minus 20 millimeters, which is about 3/4 of an inch. But in my opinion, it's actually much better than that. It's almost within a quarter of an inch, or it's almost damn near perfect. But what this means is that as an architect, you never have to essentially measure a space ever again, because the scan itself, not only are you getting full resolution photos, but you're also getting a fully measured house in 3D for down the line. So if you're an architect, you can actually use this for your business, for your own as-built condition generation. Or if you're a photographer, you can actually scan a space and you can provide that LiDAR point cloud model to an architect, and then they can use it for their own purposes down the line. But for me personally, I scan the space, I've measured the space, and I use the point cloud for all of my modeling down the line. So the main focus of this presentation is to show you the 5 things that can be done with this camera very easily, at least for me as an architect. So I kind of broke it down into, like, you can scan, measure, draw, model, and design. The first 3 are kind of grouped together because those are essentially things that anyone can do out of the box. There's no additional software required, no additional training. Basically, for as long as you have the camera from Realsee, you can do those 3 things. You can scan, you can measure, and you can draw. And I'm going to show you some snippets about what that looks like. Now, the last 2, which is model and design, that's where your skills as a designer or an architect come into effect, because those do require additional software that's outside of the possibilities of Realsee. And it's a vast array of where you can take these scans. For me personally, I'm going to be focusing on how I use Revit and how I use Twinmotion. But those are not the only 2 things you can use. You can use Rhino, you can use ArchiCAD, you can use 3D Studio Max, you can use Maya, you can use Lumion. I mean, the possibilities are endless. But just for me personally, I like the Autodesk products, so I use Revit, and Twinmotion comes with Revit, so I use those 2 for my modeling and my designing softwares. So to start off, I'm going to tell you what you get when you purchase a camera from Realsee. In the United States here, I used BH Photos and Videos, and that's where I got my camera from. If you want to get a camera, you can use the link in the description below, and you can get yourself a camera, because otherwise the camera is going to come from China, which is the actual website itself. So you want to find a local retailer and just get it from them directly. In my case, I used B&H. It took about 2 days to get the whole camera to my possession, so it was really fast. So what you get with a camera, you're going to get a backpack. Well, besides the camera itself, you're going to get a backpack, which it kind of hugs and protects the camera itself within it. You're going to get a tripod. The tripod is what you're going to mount the camera on. Now, to mount the camera, they're going to give you a quick release on bubble level. This is a 2-part component. This part right here goes at the bottom. It kind of screws into the bottom of the camera, like right here. And then this part here, this is the quick release toggle itself. This goes on top of the tripod right here. And essentially, you see these 3 negative holes here. They kind of snap into place with these 3. And when you put the camera on top, it just they kind of click into each other, and then it becomes very secure. And basically to remove the camera, you just twist the quick release, and the camera just kind of snaps off. It just kind of pops off. What this means is this eliminates the need to just turn the camera, and it's less likely that you're going to drop it. You're also going to get a lens protector for the lens here, and you're also going to get a protector for the LiDAR itself. and those are kind of just magnetic. They just kind of snap on. And obviously, you're going to get a charging power cord and adapter. And this is and a battery. Of course, you're going to get a battery. At the time of this recording, this is January of 2026. I don't know what kind of offers Realsee has, but this camera could cost you between $5,000 or $6,000, $5,500. It just depends. Sometimes they have like Christmas specials or holiday specials or whatever it might be. So just check out their website to see what they have. They might have something on sale. Sometimes they might throw in an extra battery or something else. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you. I've had this camera now for about 9 months, and I've done quite a lot of scans. So I'm going to be kind of showing you what I've done with this camera since I've been using it since back of March of 2025. Let's see. From my personal setup, in addition to what comes with the camera, I've purchased several other things. The first thing that I've purchased is a tripod dolly. It's what you see here at the bottom. It essentially puts your camera on wheels, and you can actually lock those wheels, and it makes it very easy to move it around instead of having to pick it up and move it to the next spot. In this case, you just kind of just roll it along, and it makes it very easy for that. I personally use an iPad in addition to the camera, because the camera by itself doesn't do much. You got to pair it with some kind of a handheld device, whether it's a phone or a tablet. In my case, I use an iPad. My daily driver every day is actually, I have an Android phone, so the Realsee app works on Android and it works on Apple products itself. I just like the way the iPad looks like, because I take notes every single day on that, so I use that for Realsee, and it's nice and big. And in order to free up my hands, I've also purchased like a lanyard that kind of goes around your neck. That way you can just kind of let go of the iPad, and then I can kind of get my two hands to move the camera to the next spot, and so on and so forth. So I get the dolly, I get the lanyard that goes around my neck. It's basically, it's an iPad protective case, and it also comes with a rope that kind of goes around your neck. Another thing that you could do is you can get a tripod extension rod, which is basically a monopod that it adds an extra 40 inches to how high your camera can go. If you want to get a scan really high spaces, or if you want to get a better idea what the roof looks like or things like that, only thing I'll recommend is if you do extend the camera that high to change the settings of the scan to ultra fine mode or something like that. What that does is it spins the camera a lot slower, and you're less likely to have it sway because that's really high. So this is not the safest thing to do. I've done it, but you have to make the camera kind of rotate very slowly. That way it doesn't like sway too much. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to be going over this house that you see in the back. This is actually the very first paid gig that I did back in March of 2025. So I'm telling you, if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's very simple. So this is essentially the results of my very first scan that I did. I did a practice run before that at my own house, but this is the first time I actually showed up, and I was paid to do this, so to speak. This particular scan took me about 3.5 hours. Another thing I learned from this particular scan is to invest in door stoppers, because sometimes when you're in a house and you swing the door open, it just wants to close on you. So after I did the scan, I actually bought some door stoppers. That way I can, manually just keep doors open in the house. That way they will actually stay open instead of having to close on me. So that was the one thing I learned from this particular scan. So let's go to the next slide. So I kind of mentioned that the camera by itself doesn't really do you much, because you need to pair it with a handheld device which acts as a remote control, but it also shows you what you have scanned. So what you see here is this is a tablet, and it shows the Realsee software. And essentially, this is how you control the camera. You can basically press a button, and the camera does its thing. It kind of spins around, and it'll immediately show you what it just scanned. And little by little, as you make more and more scans, your project starts to grow, and you can see everything that you've scanned. So what does that look like? So this is the interface on my iPad. You can see this is back in the days they used to have a 2D and 3D button. I believe this has ever since been removed because you can just kind of spin around in 3D in this thing in this software. But every single one of those blue circles represents a scan. This particular project was 83 scans, and each point has to connect to another point. You cannot just have 2 points way far away from each other. So in some cases they're really clustered together. But when I was all said and done, this is kind of what the project looks like. Over here is this little circle that you see here. That's where you will press the plus sign, and then that will essentially activate the camera to kind of spin around. When you're inside the house, you don't want to be in the shot. So sometimes you can just kind of go to the next room and then press the button from there. That way you don't show up in the picture. You also want to have an empty house to do the scan. However, if you're in a big space or let's say you're an outdoor space, all you have to do is essentially walk around the camera. That way you stay out of the way of the lens and the lidar. So I'm going to kind of show you what that looks like. It looks something like this. This is another project I scanned. This is essentially a large room where I had nowhere to hide. So it's a big empty room. So as you can see, I'm walking around the camera while it's scanning, and I'm using my iPad to make the scan. If I was inside of a house, I would do the same thing, except for I'll just go hide like in a different room. And that's kind of what it looks like to do a scan. And as I said, anyone can do a scan. Now, here is what you get at the end of a scan is you're going to provide someone, maybe your customer, essentially with a web link. And what this web link contains is it's going to contain, it's going to have this model that's comprised of basically a bunch of photos. It uses photogrammetry to create what you see on the screen right now. So this is not actually a model. This is a model that's made up of pictures, so to speak. However, within those, you can actually go to the actual photos itself, and you can have a nice virtual tour. So every single one of those spots that you see on the floor, those circles, those are scan points. And as long as you capture all these points, Realsee would automatically build that 3D model for you. And there is some editing to be done in the background to like kind of crop it because it doesn't look like this off the bat. You kind of have to clean it up. But this one looks a little grainy. However, once you zoom in to the actual photo itself, then it gets nice and crisp. And as I said, so this link will essentially provide your customer with a model. And also with a floor plan. Now this is a floor plan drawn within the Realsee console. That is just simple lines, and I'm going to go over that in a little bit about what that looks like. However, for as long as you have all your scans, you're going to get the model and you're going to get the pictures itself to kind of walk around. And I kind of mentioned earlier, you can also use 3D goggles to look at the virtual tour itself, which looks really, really nice. Now, it's not just homes you can scan. This is a project now. As an architect, this is unfortunately one of the projects, one of the homes that got burned down in Altadena, and it's just a complete dirt lot. There's no home here. The home has been removed, the foundation's been removed, and I honestly thought that Realsee or the camera would have a hard time connecting each scan to each scan, but as you can see, the end result, it still captured the entire site with all the ups and downs. So if I show it to you again, you can kind of see all the dips that are kind of in there. It captured all the ups and downs, and the end result was just perfect. And this is a great point for an architect to begin a project. And then, just imagine taking this entire site, dropping it into a model at full scale, and then starting to build a model around it. Here's a scan I did recently. This is a 20,000 square foot warehouse. This scan took me about 30 hours to do. It was a little over 100 scans. And I'm just showing this to you. Oh, this is the room that I showed you the hyperlapse of earlier. This is the end result of that particular scan. Yeah, but so a project, if you want to kind of get an idea of how long this takes, this project that you see on the screen right now, this took about 3 hours. And I did the model and I did the floor plan for that one. So again, anyone can scan. So that takes you to the first chapter, which is called scan. Next, I'm going to talk about measure. So measure is something that just kind of happens in the background. You don't have to really think much about it because for as long as you scan the project, you're you're essentially measuring the project as well. Now, what you see on the screen right now is actually it's a screenshot from a software called Autodesk Recap. And what you're seeing is a 3D model of the project comprised of little dots. And these dots actually have RGB values to them because they do record what the lidar hit the solid object, and it also merges with the actual image itself. So a point cloud model looks a lot more grainy than the photogrammetry bird's eye, or like the dollhouse effect itself. As you can see, I mean, if you can see on the screen right now, it's not as sharp as it should be. And to show you even more clearly what this looks like, is this is the model dropped into Revit, the point cloud model, and I'm gonna zoom into the point cloud, and you're gonna notice that the more I zoom in, the less sense the point cloud starts to make. At some point, it just almost disappears. But as you start to zoom out, it starts to kind of make more sense. So this is the reason why it's not only good to have the point cloud, but if you have, like, let's say you have two screens side by side. On one screen, you have your point cloud and your model, and the other screen, you have the entire tour. You can make the best out of both worlds. Another reason why I love Revit is that Revit also lets you slice and dice the point cloud. So, and that's useful because this is where you start to understand wall thicknesses. Because once I scan one room and I scan the room next to it, I'm gonna know exactly what the thickness of the wall is between it. And I can also get the ceiling heights, I can get anything I want, because this is literally me looking at the model in full scale in Revit. So if you're a photographer and this is not something that you're going to be exploring, just know that it's actually there, and this is a service that you can offer to architects. You can say, hey, I'm going to go scan a space for you, and you can give them the point cloud that's essentially pulled out from Realsee, and you can provide that as a service to someone else. Now I'm going to talk about draw. So this one, if you've never drawn a floor plan in your life, this might be a little confusing or complicated, but essentially you're just tracing lines over where the walls are in the dollhouse effect, and then you type in whatever the room name is, and then you can just you can bring in doors and windows. Right now it looks a little confusing because you're seeing the walls overlaid on top of the model, but if I remove the background, you're just left with just just the walls, doors, and windows like that. And then this is a screenshot taken literally from the console from Realsee, and they've made it very easy. You can add, as I mentioned, doors, windows, text. You can add furniture, and this is just like 2D elements to draw something, and everything has dimensions. And one thing to note is that it's not just in inches and feet. You can do metric, whichever one suits you. You can kind of go back and forth. I made a little video kind of showing what that looks like. So here's the application itself, where it lets you, like, for the sake of this, let's just draw a random wall in this driveway just to kind of show what that looks like. So here I just drew 3 lines, and bam, I got myself a room that has actual dimensions. And then you can drop in a door. You can scale that door. You can make it bigger. You can make it smaller. You can flip it to one side, flip it to the other side, or flip it this way, flip it that way. So it's not extremely accurate, but if I know there's a door there, I can just quickly put in a door. So this gives people who you've scanned their home, you can provide them with a very simple floor plan, but it's nothing like what architects use for their purposes, which I'm going to talk about later. So now when it comes to architects will use the point cloud model, which is essentially a scanned space in full blast, in full 3D, and bring it into the software. And kind of what I just showed you a little while ago with the draw, but now this is in an actual architectural software where you're drawing walls and windows, and you have to look at the height of things too, the heights, and then you can get very precise as how big a door is, because earlier I showed you how you kind of make a door bigger and smaller just like this, but in Revit, you're going to be actually talking about, like, how many inches or how big it is, and also how tall the door is, because you'll get all that information from the actual LiDAR scan itself. I personally love Revit because it lets me, again, slice the model, and I can kind of just see exactly what I need without having all the information beyond, it makes it very easy to create as-built drawings. So this is what you see on the screen right now. This is just a point cloud model in 3D, and on top of that, you can see that the whole home has been essentially built in 3D on top of the point cloud. And when it's all said and done, you essentially turn off the point cloud. The point cloud has already been used, and the end result is the model itself. So here's another view of the point cloud. Remember I said the more you zoom in, the less sense it starts to make. One thing to note is that Realsee, when you have the Galois camera, it's up to you to tell it how fast to spin. The slower the camera spins, the more points it captures. By default, when you put it on standard mode, you'll get something like this. But if you really want to capture something in more high definition, you just have to make the camera spin a little bit slower, and then you're gonna get a lot more points scanned. That way it doesn't look so grainy. However, that is gonna increase your scan time. So as an architect, the purpose that I'm trying to, what I'm trying to do here is get the point cloud into Revit, and then I use the point cloud to draw physical walls and columns and doors and windows and chimneys and roofs, you name it, which is kind of what you see now. So I'm just kind of drawing on top of it, and then when it's all said and done, I turn off the point cloud, and I'm just left with the model, and I can use this now to do demolition plans, remodel plans, elevations, sections, so on and so forth. But the point cloud is a great starting point to get me a model like this. And then here's what it looks like in Revit. This is the same house I just showed you right now with the point cloud and the 3D model mixed together. And I'm gonna start slicing and dicing the model to kind of show what it looks like. To make things easier, I've post-shade the walls red. That way you can just see how they've kind of just been traced on top of the point cloud. And you can slice and dice it any way you want. In this case, I did horizontal slice. Now I'm doing a vertical slice this way to kind of show you the picture of the roof. This is kind of what it looks like. And then you can yeah, just Revit allows you to slice the model any which way you want. Which is great, because as an architect, this is a great place to start. Once you have that model, you can do many, many things with it. So last but not least, I'm going to talk about design. So this is where we're going to bring things somewhat full circle, because once you have a model that you can export into different software, in this case, I'm going to show you what it looks like in Twinmotion, you can almost recreate what we did at the very beginning, which is taking a bunch of scans. So you can export a 3D model into another software, and in that software, you can create a bunch of 360 panoramic shots, and then feed those into Realsee and get a virtual tour, just the same way you got a virtual tour of an actual building. So once you have a model, you can basically turn any model into a virtual tour by using Realsee and their platform. So what I'm going to show you on the screen right now, this is that same model, slightly like redesigned. This is in Twinmotion. So in Twinmotion, I'm just kind of showing you that this is an actual model that you can walk around, you can pan around. So now this has been removed from Revit. Now it's in a whole different software. Here's where you can add lights and materials and people and cars and trees and things like that. For the sake of this video, I'm just keeping it very, very basic, just black and white, just to kind of show you that this is a real legit 3D model. However, while I was in this model, I created a bunch of panoramic pictures in this plot. So it was almost like I was pretending to do panoramic shots. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is essentially those shots. So I get these JPEGs from my model. You can get up to 50 JPEGs. And once those are all said and done, you can upload those to the Realsee console, and Realsee will essentially create a 3D tour of your model. And here's what that looks like. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is essentially a 3D tour. This is the link that you can send to someone. It looks like a 3D model, but it's actually not. It's just a bunch of panoramic shots from my 3D model fed into Realsee, and the end result looks something like this, and you feel like you're looking at a 3D model. So this is a great deliverable to give to a client to show them the design of something, because they can literally walk through their whole house and see everything that you design. Not to mention that they can also pop on VR goggles and experience the space, in its full redesign mode. Uh, and and that is essentially, in my opinion, the 5 things that you can do with Realsee. And I mean, the possibilities are kind of endless. I've already kind of given you a pretty good overview about what could be done, but you know, a whole bunch of stuff can be done. So now let's talk about why Realsee over the competitors. In this case, the competitors will be Matterport. I was actually familiar with Matterport before I knew Realsee, but I've become very, very fond of Realsee ever since. The number one reason why I like Realsee is that they have no monthly fees. You only pay for what you need. And what that means is when you scan something, you can edit the scan, you can do everything internally. It's only when you want to actually share a link with someone is when you start paying for things, so to speak. And they have a pay-as-you-go thing. So 1 credit results in 1 month of hosting one project, and 1 credit costs up around $3 or less. The less points you buy at once, the more they cost. But if you get a bundle of points, then they cost. So they cost between $2 to $3 ish, so to speak. And then it only matters how many links you have live at the same time. Sometimes you can make them auto renew, or just have a link just for 1 month, and then after 1 month is done, it just won't charge you any other credits. It's really entirely up to you. But the best part is there is no monthly fees. So if you just have one project in one scan, that's all you're gonna pay for, and that's about it. They have a great online community. They have a great WhatsApp group. I would highly recommend you join their WhatsApp group. I think if you go to their website and you leave a message in the bottom right corner, they're gonna send you something, and then from there you can find your way to join the WhatsApp group. It's a great community. To be honest with you, most people in that community are photographers, and I've seen so many good tours that have been done on that WhatsApp group that kind of blow me away, because they do a lot of like drones and things of that nature. I personally don't dive into that kind of stuff because I'm using it more for the architectural points and the point clouds. But if photography is your thing, and even if you don't get the Realsee camera itself, I highly suggest you join the WhatsApp group, and then you can kind of just take a peek and just see what the chatter is all about. You're gonna have some examples. Let's say you're trying to do a museum somewhere and you want to get a sample of a museum. I'm pretty sure someone in the WhatsApp group has scanned the museum, so you can use that as an example to show someone, to a client, whatever it may be. I would highly recommend you join the WhatsApp group. The next thing is that we have a lot of peer-to-peer webinars. I myself has done 2 webinars. If you check out my playlist called webinars, they're both posted on there. I did 2 webinars. One of them is about converting the native E57 file from Realsee into an RCP that can be used in Revit. And then the other webinar had to do with best practices. And I am planning on doing more shorter videos on this YouTube channel to explain more about the ins and outs of what could be done with Realsee. Another thing I love about them is that they really listen to their customers. I've given plenty of feedback in the last 9-10 months, and Realsee has actually listened. They've made some additional enhancements, so to speak, to the console of things that I've recommended, not just me but other people too. So my suggestion just doesn't fall on deaf ears. They actually listen and they implement it, so I'm really, really grateful for that, and thank you, Realsee. And last but not least, Realsee is innovative and forward-thinking. They're a great company, they're a young company, and I can see that they have a lot of potential, and I can only see them getting better and better. They have new things coming out. For example, this year they're gonna release something called virtual renovation. I want to say mid-2026, that's gonna come out. What that means is that's gonna let you essentially take the AI within Realsee can remodel a project using AI through the actual 3D tour itself. So you can give someone a project and they can you can show them what that's going to look like as a modern house or a ranch style house or Gothic house, whatever it might be. Um, It'll let you do that through the use of AI. Um, and that's essentially the presentation, guys. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, let me know in the link in the comments below. Otherwise, you can also send me an email at gabriel@galakaarchitects.com. Or again, you can check out my website at galakaarchitects.com. Thanks for watching. Happy scanning, and see you in the next video.